Everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner when a bird, bird, bird.
Welcome back to another week of Kicking It with Bird and Mook. You're here with your guest hosts, Brian Mook McMurdy and Robert Bird Brown. We've been through 4 shows now. We're into our 5th week, and we've had some really good guests, as you know. We've had Kevin Healy from the Baltimore Blast. We had Robert Dunn, former president of the Dublin Bohemians Football Club. And today I'm going to turn it over to Mook, and he's got a special guest with us here today that we'd like to spend some time with.
Yes. This is Mook right here. I have a friend of mine that I had coached back in high school after I graduated from Frostburg with his father, Sam Holt. His name is Tim Holt, who ironically now is the president of the USL. How I crossed paths with Tim many years after coaching him in high school, I read last year in January or February with Major League Soccer that the USL has signed a contract with Major League Soccer, streamlining both the USL and Major League Soccer similar to the European model. One name jumped out at me, which was Tim Holt. I just looked at it and I said, it can't be. I Googled it, put the image, looked like his father. I sent him an unsolicited email saying that Baltimore is an untapped market, and he shot back an email to me, introduced me to the owners, which is the Terabassi family, and it's just snowballed from there. So I'm going to introduce Tim Holt, the president of USL. He's going to give a little background, and Tim, you're live on air.
Hey, Mook, how you doing?
Top of the morning.
Good to talk to you guys this afternoon. Mook, it's been a number of years. It's great to catch up with you. Good that we're still involved with the sport.
Definitely. Hey, I just want to say I'm a disciple of your father. He was a visionary. He started FC Delco in 1989, and obviously I know that you are basically a 4.0 version of him. And I think collectively together we have the right connections. I really think we can do some great things in one of your larger markets in USL. Hey, could you kind of mention what the Lords of Baltimore is about and how we can duplicate the Sons of Ben in Philly, what they did with the Philadelphia Union in your markets?
Yeah, the Lords of Baltimore, I think the Sons of Ben is a good analogy in terms of the Lords of Baltimore as a sort of a grassroots, supporter-driven initiative to bring professional soccer, outdoor professional soccer to Baltimore. It's just, the sport of soccer at the professional level, the outdoor game has changed so much over the course of the last 10 years, and in almost every way for the better. We're really developing a generation of fans that love the game, that love everything about the game worldwide, and are sort of driving this new energy in the sport. And so many of these soccer franchises, whether they're MLS teams like Philadelphia that sort of was arose out of the Sons of Ben movement, or USL Pro teams in different markets, have come because of initiatives like Lords of Baltimore. So it's a growing movement. There's a lot of number of passionate people, passionate about their Baltimore sports, passionate about the sport of soccer behind it. When you combine that with where the sport's going in this country, sort of the major growth that it's experiencing and moving into different markets, and all the efforts that groups like the PDL Baltimore Bohemians are doing to lay a foundation for moving to that next level, which is the professional game. It's an exciting time for the sport, and it's an exciting time for soccer in Baltimore.
Well, the one thing that kind of fires me up is you have a little historical record of some successes from USL teams that have worked their way up to the highest level. So why don't you mention some of the successes and how we were able to help you out?
So USL Pro has been a proving ground of sorts for markets, ownership groups, clubs to build their brand, build their fan base, build their stadium initiatives, build their teams in preparation for moving to Major League Soccer. Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, Montreal, all of which are MLS clubs now, spent 10 or more years in the USL professional outdoor division doing all of those things and building a fan base before moving to Major League Soccer and making that jump. So a lot of fans talk about, well, wouldn't it be great if we had promotion relegation in this country, everything would be perfect. Well, we do kind of have this informal promotion, if you will, which has existed through teams that have performed in markets that can sustain teams at the Major League level, putting themselves on the MLS radar screen. And ultimately, their ownership groups and everybody involved in the markets deserve all the credit, not the league. But we've provided this platform for them to develop into these pro teams. And the 5th team that we have now is very exciting for us, is Orlando City, who have won the USL Pro Championship 2 out of the last 3 years. They drew 20,000 fans to the championship game last September and were admitted to Major League Soccer during this past offseason. They'll play their final season in USL Pro this year out of the Disney ESPN Sports Complex. And then they'll be moving to a new soccer-specific stadium and launching an MLS in 2015. So that pathway just continues to be reinforced. So Orlando's the fifth. We don't believe they'll be the last. We've got some new strong teams in markets like Oklahoma City, Sacramento, a couple of expansion teams, and then teams like Pittsburgh with a brand new stadium that they've built on the waterfront that'll be pushing to be that next group of teams. And to tie that all back together, Mook, we think Baltimore could be in that conversation. It's a major league market in every possible way. The soccer there is fantastic, all the way from a participatory standpoint through the collegiate game. There's a history of supporting major international events and national team games. It's just a matter of time before Baltimore has a professional soccer team. Hopefully we would think that the best starting point for that would be through USL Pro and then building up potentially based on the performance to the highest level of soccer in the country.
Also, I need to give you some kudos, and Bert and I were kicking around some ideas, and not to pinch some of the things that he wants to mention to you. I was looking at all the attendance from all the teams, I think the 18, 19 teams, and he noticed something that jumped out. All your teams that you launched, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, and the whole bit, they have the highest average home basis.
Yeah, that's interesting. And, obviously you've got great ownership groups there, but I think part of it has to do with the fact that all those fan bases were organically developed. They may have 18, 19, 20, and, in Seattle's case, closer to 30 or 40,000 fans per game, but all of them started at 3,000, 4,000 fans a game playing in a lower division. And that built. If you look at something like the Timbers Army, which is as good an example of a supporters club movement as you have in American soccer, and rivals anything up there in Europe, quite frankly. Timbers Army was several hundred people when they relaunched their 2.0 version, if you will, in USL back in 2001, and has just grown and grown and grown, and to the point now where it's the model for different clubs. So that organic growth that's been built year on year, and at a lower division level, I think really has created just a stable, solid foundation for those clubs in Major League Soccer. They were proven professional soccer clubs before they reached MLS. But MLS has so many success stories, even the ones that haven't come through USL, like Sporting Kansas City, which has completely reinvented itself in the Galaxy. And, as you alluded to earlier, we're very excited to have a partnership affiliation which allows our teams to have a direct affiliates, one-on-one affiliates with MLS clubs, and also has provided the opportunity for MLS clubs to launch their own owned and operated USL Pro team directly in our league, as LA Galaxy is doing this year, the first club doing it with LA Galaxy 2, which play as a member of USL Pro.
Tim, if you don't mind, I know, Mook, you guys have a good history, long background together. For people like myself and maybe a lot of the people that are listening on the radio show today, I mean, what is your background in soccer? How does somebody go from being, obviously you probably played for your father at FC Delco, and how do you go from being a player, to a coach to now you're the president of one of the largest leagues in the country?
Well, I think a lot of good fortune goes into that. Obviously, I grew up, around the sport from the earliest age, not different than probably, 3 million kids in this country that played at the younger ages. It was always a passion for me. I went to Penn State and got a business degree there, and I've never not been involved in the sport in any level, as a player, as a coach, running tournaments outside of school. But, I think what's happened during the time that I've grown up and my generation's grown up is that now there are opportunities to make a living in the sport due to people, investors and owners and visionaries and people that have created, entities like USL and Major League Soccer, and everything's grown. The whole industry's grown. So now there are real occupations other than just being a pro soccer coach or a pro soccer player for people to make a living in the game. So I consider myself very fortunate. I've had a lot of great opportunities. I think I've worked hard to try to take advantage of that, but there's not a day that I don't recognize how fortunate I am to continue to be able to give back to the sport in a way, hopefully, that builds it for the future and creates more opportunities for the next generation of of people that can carry this game forward. So I would tell you, that, sort of synopsize that: hard work and good luck, and a growing soccer industry.
We have to take a break real quick. I want to come back and pick up on something you just mentioned, if that's all right.
Absolutely. I'd love to continue the chat.
All right, we'll be right back with more Kicking It with Bird and Mook.
Hi, this is Jeff Laird, owner and general manager here at WTTR. Last December, when I bought the station, I knew that I couldn't leave any stone unturned about the operation of the station. I looked at everything: the personnel, the format, our commitment to the community, revenue opportunities, expenses, everything. And there was an expense that was making me extra crazy. We were spending a ton on ink cartridges, toners, and drums, over $400 a month, so I did a full review and called in several vendors to help us with our document processing needs. And there was one vendor that stood out from all the rest: Document Essentials. Brian McMurty of Document Essentials came in, looked at what we needed, and recommended a solution of network printing, faxing, scanning, and copying for just $179 a month. It's a no-money down, turnkey approach. Well, it's only been a couple weeks, but I already can see the savings, and we certainly don't look like one of those big box stores storing all kinds and types of ink cartridges. If your copier, fax, or laser printer doesn't have a service contract, or you're paying way too much like we were to process documents, then call my friend Brian McMurty of Document Essentials, 410-857-5255, extension 107. That's 410-857-5255, extension 107.
All right, welcome back to more of Kicking It with Bird and Mook. We're here with our guest, Tim Holt, the president of the United Soccer League. Tim, you mentioned something right before we went on break, and how you were able to grow from a soccer player or a coach. You got your business degree at Penn State, and now you're the president of the USL. And I have three sons, and I have three sons, and all three of them are very passionate about soccer. But they're looking at different careers because really they thought there wasn't a way to make money in this industry. I have one son who's studying to be a CPA and would love nothing more than to be involved in a sports franchise, and then soccer is his passion as well. So, I think it's a great motivating tool for those people out there, maybe in the generation below us, that there is a chance to make some money in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I recognized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to have a professional soccer career, and if I wanted to stay involved in the game, then I needed to take a different path. And as I just mentioned, there weren't a whole heck of a lot of jobs when I just had started to enter in, but there have been over time. There's with new opportunities and new teams and new leagues and different stuff, the industry's very much growing. But the one thing that I would say to folks is you can get. There is a way to make a living. There may be more lucrative field to go into than soccer administration or pro soccer administration, but if you really love the sport and you like waking up every morning and being passionate about what you're going to do and knowing that you're making a difference in the game, just playing a small role and pushing this thing forward towards us having one of the best professional leagues in the world and ultimately one day winning a men's World Cup, then I can't think of any job in the world that I would rather have in terms of getting out of bed and being excited about doing it. And there's more and more of those opportunities at the team level, at the league level. So just like you never tell a kid you can't be something. They have dreams and they should pursue those. Sometimes in sports those can go outside the lines too and off the field. And there's certainly a lot more opportunities to work in the sport than there are to play it at the type of level that I'm involved. So. Again, it's hopefully if anyone looks at that and says, "Hey, that's something that I would like to do. I didn't know that type of opportunity existed." That's exciting because we need bright people with sharp minds that are passionate about the game to help lead the sport in the years to come.
Like you said, it sure makes it a heck of a lot easier to get up every morning and go to work, doesn't it?
No question.
Before I hand you back over to Mook, I just had some questions I wanted to cover with you, mostly about the USL and the number of leagues that you have below you. If you want to take a couple minutes, just give us just a rough background, and I've got some specific questions to follow up on. But if you could just tell us what the USL is all about.
Yeah, so USL in its broadest sense, United Soccer Leagues, is the largest system of elite level soccer leagues in the United States and in Canada. We operate USL Pro, which is our most prominent league, with 16 franchises. That's a direct affiliated league with Major League Soccer, all teams in the continental United States, all games stream live on YouTube. So many of our teams are affiliated with MLS teams. They're standalone teams, 4 of which play in their own stadium. That's the top of our soccer pyramid. But below that, we have developmental leagues. On the men's side, we have the PDL, which is what the Baltimore Bohemians play in, which is about a 65-team National Under-23 Professional Development League. It's not a pro league, and about 75 to 80% of the players are current student athletes in Division I colleges, the next generation of pros. The age is about 18 to 23 with some older players. Below that, we have our Super 20 League, which is the nation's only under-20 National Soccer League, and then all the way down to the Super Y League, which is our foundation league, which is 12 through 17 in a regional league format. And a similar model on the women's side with the W League sitting at the top of our women's pyramid, which is a women's Pro-Am league, and the W20 League and Super Y League supporting that. So we operate a total of 6 different national soccer properties. The breadth and scope of what we do is unparalleled in American soccer. We may not be the biggest at any of the levels, youth, adult, or professional, but we're the only one that sort of provide that, A to Z, cradle to grave type of vertically integrated system of leagues that is really the norm in most European and international leagues around the world.
Now, you had mentioned the difference between the USL Pro and maybe the league that the PDL, that the Baltimore Bohemians play in, which is the PDL. Can you give us a little bit more detail as to how they go from being the U23 professional development league up to something where they're actually on the cusp of making it to the MLS?
Yeah, so there's two different sides. There's the business side and then the player side. The business side is different. The operating budgets of those USL Pro teams are 2 or 3 times higher. There's player payrolls. I mean, you're talking about professionals versus non-professionals in that situation. So the level is very good. There's more that goes into the marketing and the promotions, and the stadiums are a little larger. The front office staffs are a little larger than the PDL teams. On the playing side, the biggest difference is very simple. It's professionals versus non-professionals. But I think anyone would be mistaken to think that the PDL isn't a very, very high level. PDL teams have beaten USL Pro teams. They've beaten MLS teams in something called the U.S. Open Cup, which is the U.S. equivalent of the FA Cup in England. So, and you're talking about, players that if they're collegiate players and maybe their seniors are 1 year away from playing in MLS or in USL Pro or other leagues around the world. So the level of play in the PDL is exceptionally high. Again, we're in 65 different markets. I know you're in Baltimore. Fans have an enormous opportunity to go out and watch the Bohemians play. They've been one of the top teams in the last 3 years in one of the top divisions in the PDL. So on any given day, what you're seeing in a Baltimore Bohemians game is a team that's as good as teams that are playing in USL Pro or MLS. Now, if the Bohemians were in MLS week in and week out, I'm not saying that they would be a playoff team or be able to be competitive week in and week out, but any given day, the talent out there is very good, and you're seeing the stars of the future in that league. So most of it's really about business scale in terms of overall operations and sort of the financial investment that goes into operating these teams when you're talking about the difference between USL Pro and PDL.
Gotcha.
And Tim, also one of your teams was Montreal Impact that came from the USL, and ironically, our Golden Boot winner award was Pete Caringi III, who was signed on. I believe that we beat Ocean City Nor'easters as one of the better teams, which we qualified for the Open Cup. So what does that mean if Baltimore is able to host an Open Cup here in town?
Well, it would be unbelievably exciting. First, Pete Caringi having the beginning of what we think will be a remarkable career. He's one of those guys. In 5 or 10 years, we'll probably be bragging about that he played in the PDL and he couldn't go to a better club than the Impact in terms of professionalism and ambition. In terms of the Open Cup, what a unique and wonderful opportunity for a PDL team to stand toe-to-toe with some of the top professional clubs in the country. There's nothing like it. Baseball doesn't have anything like that, or hockey or basketball, but it's merit-based. So the Bohemians you're going to qualify, and if they can get through some of the earlier rounds, they'll have the opportunity to play against and potentially even host teams from USL Pro and or Major League Soccer. So just, sitting here thinking about potentially Baltimore Bohemians hosting DC United is a pretty, fans can salivate over that, and, the opportunity to play David versus Goliath there. We've had some teams make great runs from the PDL. The Michigan Bucks come to mind, Chicago Fire's PDL team has had a lot of success. Last year, FC Tucson beat, I think, 1 or 2 pro teams. So it wouldn't shock us if the Bohemians, the way they're run, and with the players that they have had and will have again, could make life pretty challenging for someone in the pro division.
Well, I'm going to throw my little 2 cents in there. I'm going to do some open politics. Bird and I, maybe with the Lords of Baltimore, kind of want to put out there. We're not quite sure if we're going to get a home or away. So, if by chance that the powers to be are trying to figure out who's going to get a home base, we'll be the cheerleaders to get people here to come out to the matches.
Wish I had some control over that, but for anyone that's listening, I know if they were to award a game to Baltimore, that the Baltimore soccer community would rally in a massive way to make that a really memorable event. And events like that become stepping stones for building interest and getting more people involved in groups like Lords of Baltimore and realizing professional soccer sooner rather than later.
That's fantastic. All right, I just had a couple more, and then I want to turn it over and let you and Mook kind of kick it about going, taking the Bows and how the path we're going to take from here, and then hopefully end up in the MLS. But we do need to take another break, so if you don't mind holding another second.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back with more Kicking It with Bird and Mook.
Hi, this is Jeff Laird, owner and general manager here at WTTR. Last December, when I bought the station, I knew that I couldn't leave any stone unturned about the operation of the station. I looked at everything: the personnel, the format, our commitment to the community, revenue opportunities, expenses, everything. And there was an expense that was making me extra crazy. We were spending a ton on ink cartridges, toners, and drums, over $400 a month, so I did a full review and called in several vendors to help us with our document processing needs. And there was one vendor that stood out from all the rest: Document Essentials. Brian McMurty of Document Essentials came in, looked at what we needed, and recommended a solution of network printing, faxing, scanning, and copying for just $179 a month. It's a no-money down, turnkey approach. Well, it's only been a couple weeks, but I already can see the savings, and we certainly don't look like one of those big box stores storing all kinds and types of ink cartridges. If your copier, fax, or laser printer doesn't have a service contract, or you're paying way too much like we were to process documents, then call my friend Brian McMurty of Document Essentials, 410-857-5255, extension 107. That's 410-857-5255, extension 107.
Welcome back to more Kicking It with Bird and Mook. We have as our guest today Tim Holt, president of USL. And before we went on break, I just wanted to transition here because most of the time we're here, we're talking about men's soccer. But one of the things that struck me about the USL, and then certainly coming from my 4 years of the West Central High School girls program and coaching a number of girls over the years, is it's not just about men. There's opportunities here for women in this league as well. Is that right, Tim?
That's absolutely true. I mean, the women's game continues to also grow in a significant way. At the professional level, there were sort of some false starts. First with all the momentum coming out of 1999 and then WUSA, which was done at a much grander level than the marketplace was ready for, and then similarly with WPS, which was sort of the second crack at it. But now, I think for the first time, with NWSL and the Federation, U.S. Soccer Federation's involvement and investment into that, you've got a stable First Division Women's Professional League with a good business plan that's going to be around for the future. And where we come in, like we come in on the men's side, is providing the infrastructure of support at the lower division levels behind that, both from a player development standpoint, from a market development standpoint. Our W League is 25 franchises, different markets across the United States and Canada. A couple of the current NWSL, which is the Pro League members, came out of the W League, including what is now the Washington Spirit, which was a W League franchise playing as DC United Women for a number of different years, as well as the Western New York Flash, which is the Rochester Buffalo based team. So we continue to play a role. Players come through. I mean, obviously that's only a 9-team league, so there's a number of different slots, but the W League serves to sort of serve as that next level for the players just, outside of that NWSL window, and also the top collegiate players that can play in the summer months and augment the women's college experience, which is also a very good developmental system for soccer in this country. And then, down to the 20-year-old and youth level. So USL and its members certainly are heavily invested in the current and future of the women's game. That's
fantastic. I mean, one of the things that really struck me about this whole league was the opportunity for the young players to continue their collegiate careers, yet at the same time give them something to augment their playing time and maybe get some different exposure they might get from their Division II, Division III school.
No doubt.
Purely for personal reasons, and it's our show, so I can do this, right? My son's U13 team is about to, they're playing in the Colonial League now. They're going to, for the first time, they're going to be participating in the Super Y League, which I think is kind of the first step in all this. Is that right?
Yeah, you've got it. So the Super Y League was actually also founded in 1999, was the first national youth soccer league in this country. Essentially, we launched the Super Y League to be an academy league of sorts for our senior teams. But what we found in terms of its popularity overall was it became much more than that. At that time, everything that was happening in the youth soccer world was through state association soccer. This is pre the days of, for those that are involved on the youth side, before U.S. Club Soccer and other entities like USSSA and even the U.S. Soccer Federation were involved. So what we provided was an alternative pathway for the elite clubs and players to play outside of state association soccer in a regional league format. Obviously, in the ensuing 15 years, a whole bunch of stuff's changed. It seems like there's everybody's running their regional and national leagues and regional and national cups, and we're certainly one of the organizations that does that. But the Super Y League is the only one that's really directly connected in with leagues like the PDL and USL Pro. So most of our members in PDL and USL Pro operate youth programs now and have teams in the Super Y League, and then that's complemented by some of the other top youth soccer clubs in the country, such as your son's team that'll play. It plays during the summer months, so in a lot of cases, what it does is it's an add-on for the typical soccer season, and no rest for the weary. In some cases, it turns it into 12 months of soccer. But certain clubs are looking for more, and players are looking for more, and that's just one more good competition element, and an important one that serves as the foundation of everything that we do all the way up to the professional level.
Now, as these guys grow up through there, and obviously you're not going to have scouts looking at 13-year-olds, but, I mean, there's an opportunity. Are there going to be USL Pro and PDL coaches maybe at some of those games in the summertime?
Yeah, you are going to have scouts looking at those 13-year-olds, and each game is evaluated either independently or by the coaches that are involved, and nominations are put forth throughout every game of our season for our ODP process. Our ODP process is not tryout-based. Essentially, it watches players in their natural habitat playing for their clubs, game in and game out during the season. Based on those nominations and evaluations of each game, players are selected and invited to come to a national ODP camp, which is held with our partners at IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, in the early spring of the next year. So, and at those camps, based on the age groups, the national team coaches and U.S. Soccer and pro scouts are there evaluating those players. So, yes, I mean, even from in any given Super Y League game, players are performing and are identified and evaluated in a way that can ultimately put them in front of professional team scouts or coaches or national team scouts and coaches.
That's fantastic. It really is. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to turn you back over to Mook because I know that he wants to get down to business and talk about the Bows and Lords of Baltimore, and I know you've kicked on that a little bit, but I just want to thank you again for giving us some background on the USL and all the leagues and all the wonderful things you're doing for soccer here in the U.S.
No, it's my pleasure, and thank you. I throw that right back at you for all that you're doing through this show and all your contributions.
Thanks.
Hey, Tim, it's going to be winding this down, but what I'd like to do is make your father proud, just by both say you and I, when we're teaming up along with some other people. We had mentioned off air that this is a three-legged stool for Baltimore to step up, and the one leg that Bert and I are trying to create is just get the fans aware that there is the potential. Okay, and if you can explain between the ownership and then also the corporate America stepping in as well, the successes that you've seen with Montreal, Portland, and the rest of them.
Yeah, there's definitely some common denominators in situations, Mook, where markets have gone from not having any high-level soccer or pro or even PDL in some cases to having a professional team of their own, and in some cases an MLS team, whether it's USL Pro or MLS. You touched upon one very, very important one, which is an organized, passionate supporters movement. Sons of Ben are a good example. Lords of Baltimore would be the example in Baltimore. Timbers Army in Portland. So that certainly is one without which it's not going to happen because it has to be organically created. And when that happens, you start making some noise and you draw people's attention, and it makes it easier to get some of these other things done. Those include getting the support of the corporate and business community. Can you get major corporations and businesses that are based in your market? Baltimore is a major, top 20 market in this country. A number of different companies, on a national or global scale are based in Baltimore. Can they get behind this movement to bring something to Baltimore that's unique and exciting as part of the world's game? So obviously getting the corporate support, getting the fan support, you've got to have ownership. So someone needs to lead this entire process from the front that's properly capitalized, that has a vision, is a proven leader of the fans and the sponsors, and can also, be influential with political leaders. If you can get that political support, that doesn't mean that public money needs to come into this, but just, having the political leaders be advocates. I can't think of a better example than Orlando over the past 18 months, where not only the county mayor but the city mayor have essentially been cheerleaders for bringing professional soccer to Orlando, knowing all the benefits that come with that to the citizens of their county and their city and people that live there, and it improves the quality of life and puts them on a different map, a global map, if you will, in terms of having a professional soccer team to support. So all of those elements are important. One's not more important than another. In a lot of cases, some come first. So the fan supporter movement typically comes first, and that's where you guys and others that are behind you on this with the Lords of Baltimore come into play and are critically important. The great thing for the Lords of Baltimore is they have an opportunity to support what is currently the highest level of soccer in Baltimore through the Bohemians. So take the Bohemians, support them, as if they're an MLS club, and take that fervent support, and people will take notice of that, and let's get some momentum built up. And if the next level is to bring a USL Pro team through that group with those supporters, and then ratchet that up another level, and ultimately we'll see where that takes us. The nice thing about a market like Baltimore is that Major League Soccer is conceivable. But this movement shouldn't be just done with the end goal of bringing MLS there. It should be there with the end goal of bringing the highest level of professional soccer that the market will support, and doing it the right way.
Okay.
So through the Bohemians, through everybody else that's involved, it seems like Baltimore's on the right path. It's one of the markets that we're most excited about in every possible way. We're grateful to the Pierre Biasi's investment in this, and the other investors that they have behind them in making this happen. They believe in Baltimore and the potential of professional soccer.
And so does the Lords of Baltimore. I'm going to have to probably wind it down and knock out one commercial. I wish there was another half an hour. This was a beautiful day. I'll tell you what, I was very excited about this. The Lords of Baltimore.
Let's do it again sometime.
Okay, Lords of Baltimore, our statement is, let's go pro. And the tagline is Believe, BOHLIEVE. So that's all we need to do. So we're going to wind this down. Tim, thank you very, very much. Hopefully we'll see you up here handing off a couple trophies somehow. And I'll turn it over to Bert.
Pleasure to be on the show. Thanks, guys, and continued success with everything you're doing on the show.
Thanks again, Tim. We will take you up on, we'll invite you back to do this again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that'll wrap it up for this week, another edition of Kicking It with Bird and Mook. But before I go, I just had a shout-out I wanted to give. This past weekend, as we talked about, we held our 20th annual Red Wolf Indoor Men's Soccer Championship. I got to give a shout-out to the champions. In the Open Division was the Charm City Classics, who pretty much won 15 or 16 of the 20 years we've done it. Over 30 with our own Ed DeVincent, the athletic director at Liberty High School, scoring the game-winning goal in the over 30. And then the Masters, the over 40 division, we have to give it up to Looney's Pub, who came back as champions and defended their honor. But before I go, I'd be remiss if I didn't once again say thank you to Robin Temple for making both Mook and I sound like we know what we're doing. But that indoor soccer tournament 20 years ago was just a couple guys sitting down having a beer talking about what could happen. Here we are 20 years later. We've got 26 teams here, 350 players, family, kids everywhere. Just a great day of soccer. And that happened 20 years ago. What could happen with this project 20 years from now? It's time for you guys to get on the Bow Bus. Again, we'll see you next week in another week of Kicking It with Bird and Mook.